Hi, I'm Supermoon Tarot, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about what makes you shine. This is a super duper cute question because it not only talks about, yes, what makes you glow, but it also includes, what makes people attracted to you and what do they like about you, what draws you to, or draws people to you. And what fuels you to feel like this, gives you that sort of confidence. Overall, it's a very happy, wonderful question to go over, and I'm very excited to fill your day with positivity, optimism, and confidence. Before we go into this, I just wanted to tell you, I had a goofy moment. I wanted to look cute for you guys because I felt it fit with the theme, so I put on lipstick. You're not gonna see my lipstick, so just know it's there, and we're all looking cute together. So anyways, as you can see, we have 4 groups in front of us. Pick whatever group you resonate with most. Let me give you, did I just say 4 groups? 5 groups, you know what I'm saying. Pick whatever group you resonate with most. Let me give you a moment to do so. Now that you have, you can go down to the description where you can skip to your selected group with the timestamp marked. But let's get started with Cuties number 1. Number 1, let's find out what makes you shine by looking at the cards. Your tarot cards are King of Pentacles, Knight of Cups, Knight of Wands, Queen of Swords. That is so interesting, the way she's reacting. Okay, sorry, I'm just taking some mental notes before I get into that. Continuing forth, we have 6 of Pentacles, 8 of Cups, 5 of Swords, and your last card is Ace of Pentacles. Interesting. You know what's so interesting here? The first thing I notice right here is this is like your root or your core being, and it feels like these are the branches or byproducts from this core mentality. And you'll notice I have a ton of stuff to say specifically about this that gets extended upon over here. And then these are kind of like the leaves. So that's really interesting how that laid itself out. Okay, so anyways, I love how tarot often, in the way it naturally interacts with each other, you'll start to see like a sort of metaphor going on. So I always want to point that out, obviously. So the King of Pentacles, one of the first things I'll say is something that's really wonderful about you that fuels you, but also gets others excited to be around you, is your natural ability and desire to always be self-improving. And I don't mean in a way where it's never like, sometimes people always self-improve, but they never seem to be progressing, if that makes sense. Not you. You're always building upon. You're always asking for more and not settling. There is a sense of expansion, and by effect, you kind of create for both yourself and for others this sense of like wonder in the world, the sense of possibility. That's something very definitive I see about you, especially when I see the Ace of Pentacles over here. There's always this feeling of potential with you, this feeling like there's something more out there. And that feeling right before you go into like a movie, or sometimes you're about to go to a party, whatever it is, it's this excitement level. And sometimes that's even better than the party, than the movie. Well, the really cool thing is you're kind of like that and embody that all the time. Now, keep in mind, you do expand upon that. You do build, you do show proof for what you would like. You put hard work in or what you'd like. It expands from that. But somehow you always still carry that like really magical, inexplainable quality. I will point this out. Spirit's telling me this is like your light. This is what really makes you shine. This is like one of the strongest qualities about you. So that's really cool. Self-improvement actually gets talked about here with the 8 of Cups, but I want to get on to that later on. In addition to that, the King of Pentacles with the Six of Pentacles talks about your generosity. But the thing here is generosity comes with two different meanings for you. Yes, it talks about your ability to be extremely successful. You are able to understand much like almost being like a bird's eye view of a project. You can understand all the smaller components and how they need to add up in order to equal the whole, if that makes sense. And so it's incredibly easy for you to be successful based on both your skills, your understanding of this sort of complexity. Abundance follows you, essentially. So one hand, there's the abundance thing going on here. And many people, I will forewarn you that when you have this sort of quality, I will warn you that many people will want to be around you due to your generosity, and kind of, you'll be able to identify them and get them out of your life. However, many people will maybe selfishly be initially interested in your generosity and slowly realize that it is a physical manifestation of you expressing your love. And for them, that is the hook, line, and sinker of one of the reasons they start to be more and more invested in you. But we're going to get more into that in a second. But continuing over here with the Knight of Cups, but continuing on with the generosity, something that's really special about this is, I know this seems weird, but it's true. Many people just don't have this skill. And it's kind of crazy for them to see somebody be so okay with parting with something in order just purely to see somebody else happy. That is a very simple yet difficult thing many people have not and might never master. So a lot of people just enjoy seeing it or being the person who gets to reciprocate this kindness and stuff like that. So I just want to add to that generosity thing. But we're going to actually talk about these two with self-improvement later on. They're important to know. So going on, because you are definitely not a doormat. I do want to point that out. So Knight of Cups, you are somebody who is just not afraid to vocalize their feelings. This is somebody who's pretty comfortable with it saying like, I love you, I care about you. This is a lot of vocal expressions, and this is both for friendship and romantic relationships. And something really cute and special about you is a lot of people love that you are so willing to dedicate yourself when that person is special and right. You're down to make the promise and say like, I'll be there for you, I'm here for you. And we're not just talking about dedication in longevity, it's just your pure comfortability by itself, which really like allures people and something that you enjoy. You enjoy investing yourself in somebody, and then at all given times, it's kind of like, in the beginning, when you're saying someone, oh, they're so cute, but after a couple years, naturally people get a little too comfortable and they're not as vocal about it. Not you. You love hearing it, you love sharing it, you're all about it. But something people really like when it comes to the whole dedication thing we were talking about, and you professing your feelings so openly, again, very open quality, really wondrous, that gets expressed over here as well, is people can trust in what you can show. And you enjoy that too. King of Pentacles is someone who believes in practicality. They can show physical results of hard work, physical results of how they feel, physical results of the potential that they initially had. It can get fully realized. And you bring that practicality in your expression for love. It's something that people don't know they need until they, it's not just about receiving presents. It's about seeing the action someone is willing to take. You know what I mean? It's about whether it be like a homemade gift. Maybe you're nice and you clean up the place for them. Maybe you bring them some, fun fast food when you see them next just because you care about them. Again, yes, it's generosity. Yes, people like that. But over time, people will find that has more cement and it's something they need more in their life than just purely, nice little text messages and promises that never get realized. You're somebody who follows through on a promise, which is really beautiful and wondrous. But what else? How do I want to go about this? So I'll continue on over here. The Knight of Wands is really great how it's interacting with the Knight of Cups. This is, you are for sure extremely passionate, but we have this fun, like, dualistic quality going on. Because over here, this is more of like a serene sort of state, right? You're calm, hey, I think you're great, blah, blah, blah. And then this is like energy. And that's like that fun balance you always have going on. You're always that mix of somebody who has their moments, they're quiet, they're whispering, they're having a heart-to-heart with somebody, and then the next moment they're bouncing off the walls, they've got an idea, they want to talk about it, they're full of this potential like we talked about over here and here, and they're ready to, let the other person know and get pumped about it. You have a lot of just general passion and energy, and when these two get together, especially when people get to experience this duality, it is quite complex, beautiful, because it encompasses every gamut of emotion, and well, I just think it's pretty great. But don't be surprised if you find one kind of dominates the other, if that makes sense. Like sometimes it will, like, suddenly the passion pushes out the quietness and vice versa, which seems logical, but it's like when I say things, I'm like, yeah, well, that seems obvious. And I'm like, no, but it's still a little more nuanced than that. And I can't always find the words, but I hope you get what I'm saying. So this is why I thought this was so interesting over here. So the Queen of Swords is somebody who is extremely honest, and kind of honest in almost an aggressive way. It's like they're letting you know how they feel. But it's not about just standing up for themselves or something like that. It's about the truth. It's about getting to the nitty-gritty and not wasting time. But the reason why I find this is so interesting over here is it almost looks like your passion and desire to, when you get all excited like this and you're really into something, it almost seems like this sort of barrier. Like the truth is important too. You want to express it, you want to hear it, but it seems like it comes later. Like you won't right away get into the truth at times when this part of your personality pops up to dominating. It kind of is a little bit, it's not a negative thing. It's just, don't be surprised if you have a sort of delayed reaction when it comes to this part of your personality. It's there. I think there's a bit of a fear element. You definitely, when we see the Ace of Pentacles right below it, it's like you're waiting to see certain things come into realization. Again, we talk about the proof in the pudding and the practicality of, you need to see evidence, if that makes sure, before you get into the nitty-gritty, which is not a bad thing. It shows your carefulness, again, your dedication, your intelligence when it comes to thinking things through. You're definitely not someone, it's like you have these traits that could potentially be impulsive, but you're actually more than meets the eye. You're a lot more, I can't think of the word. You know what I'm saying though. Let me see, what else did I not cover? Oh, I definitely want to point out with these two being together, this is where you get, like, when it comes to competition, and this is definitely a reason why you're so successful, because over here is the potential, and over here is the skills and the mindset we talked about. Then you've got the fuel for it, but if you add oxygen to fire, well, that's a big old flame, because the Five of Swords shows your competitive nature. Oh yeah, if you want to make it happen, there is an okayness to pushing other people aside. It doesn't mean you're not kind. Like, don't take this imagery too seriously, especially with these two girls upset. It's just more about you understand, again, the bigger picture, and there's a certain point where you're like, listen, I don't want to hurt you, but I understand that if I do well, that others do well around me. I care about this. I want to make it happen. What's wrong with having confidence and making my dreams come true? Because many people, especially many kind people, and you're very kind when we look at this generosity, this way of expressing yourself, do not know how to set healthy barriers. And here is where your healthy barriers come in. We talk about self-improvement, self-care, and stuff like, well, we're specifically talking about self-improvement, but this is where it's like the self-care comes in. You're okay saying, listen, I'm going to be generous and loving and all that, but like, I'm not, why is me rising up somehow putting someone else down? Like, you're able to call people out on that, and that's a good thing. That's a really, really positive thing. Understand that is a great, great, great trait to have. That continues on over here with the Eight of Cups. There is a sort of lightness about you, because even if you don't feel like that at times when we feel weighed down by heaviness and emotion and stuff like that, the wonderfulness about this is that when you feel you're done with something, you let it go behind you for good. You do not carry it over into the next relationship. You do not carry it over into the next experience. You learn, you process it, you move on. You let it go. There is incredible maturity in this. This prevents you from ever being held back and preventing your obstacles coming up. Like I said, you are a powerhouse when it comes to self-improvement, because all of these things are either benefiting you and adding to it, or basically you could consider these as like obstacle removers. And the last thing I want to mention that makes you shine is this Ace of Pentacles and King of Pentacles both talk about your ability to manifest. And again, we talk about manifestation through practical means, what you can trust, what you can see. You are somebody who learns very well through seeing things in front of you. You need to see it. You need to be able to visualize it. Sometimes being able to touch it can help really well and help you kind of get that mindset. But this manifestation specifically is fueled by, again, this feeling of potential. So when you feel that excitement to do something that you're like, yeah, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to happen. That's it. That's all you need. And you really, really explode with power and light. So next time you feel that feeling, dive into it. Understand that that's your fuel. Let it like power you up. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this reading as much as I enjoyed giving it. I love doing this. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Either way, have a beautiful day. I will see you in the next one. But now, let's get ready for group number 2. Oh. Group number 2. Let's find out what makes you shine by looking at the cards. Your tarot cards are the Moon, 5 of Cups, 2 of Cups, 9 of Cups. So many emotions, I love it. Ace of Wands, 2 of Wands, 10 of Swords, and your last card is Ace of Swords. Wow. Look at this. This doesn't even conflict. That's so weird. And look, it gets repeated again here. And here. Okay, this is so interesting. So you're going to hear me repeat a bunch of different things throughout as I go through this about. I mean, you can't be defined by one single characteristic. No. And you're going to hear me say a bunch of different things. But you're also going to hear me say over and over and over again the same repeating theme I see repeated throughout nearly every card interaction. It's an extremely important trait that defines you. This is the thesis of the spread, the motif, so to speak. And it talks about balance, but balance is interesting here. See, when you think about balance, you think of a very serene feeling, most likely. This is the type of serene feeling where you're getting the right amount, the right proportion of things at the right time. Nothing's ever too up in the air and energetic, and nothing's too low and sad. It's just neutral. It's just in the middle. And sometimes we need that in our life, and that's fine, but not you. Balance, by your definition, is when you've experienced both sides, total 180 spectrum of extremes of both the bad and the good, and yet they come together to cohesively work. And it's not about censoring one. They complement each other. And so you'll notice as I continue throughout, while we're going to define it as balance, people would not look at you and say, that person's a very balanced person. They are going to notice that they can see every side of you, and somehow it doesn't feel like one is overshadowing or overwhelming the other side, if that makes sense. So example, and let me elaborate. So over here we have the Ten of Swords. This shows me that you have experienced the lowest of the lows at points in your life. And the Nine of Cups over here shows me that you've experienced the highest of the highs. Because now that I'm not talking about a mood swing kind of way, I'm saying that there were times in your life when we see this card that people unexpectedly betrayed you. You know, you thought you could depend on them and it just didn't work out that way. You know what it feels like to feel true, unexpected despair and really better be able to empathize with other people for it. And then at the same time, and this is interesting because I don't think this is something you should definitely give attention to over time, because sometimes you're aware of this ability and sometimes you're not. Sometimes you're feeling confident and sometimes you're not. But when we see the Ace of Swords pointing up here, when you really put your mind to it, and this is what this card interaction is saying, when you put your mind to it, and you are like, yeah, I've got this. Everything seems easy. You know, you cut through all the clouded, overthinking, doubts, whatever, this sort of mindset. You can accomplish anything. You can get exactly what you want. You can make it happen, not just make your dreams happen, but happen the way that you want them to happen. Again, you've experienced true bliss and are capable of experiencing it even more as time goes on in your life. But here we are, we have that balance, those two opposite spectrums going on, working together. And that's important because over here, this is a great summary of why this is important that you've experienced it and people really appreciate this about you. So the Moon card shows me that you have throughout your lifetime experienced and battled with continuous emotions of stress or sadness. Some of us, it's a lifelong battle. And for you, it keeps popping up. And that's okay. That's not a bad thing. But when someone is able to experience these emotions and it can, it gets to them over time, it's very easy to give in to them or to feel mad about them, but not you. There's something about this that not only, especially when I see so many cup cards, you are a very emotional person in the best way possible. It really helps you connect to people, and people really love that you're able to understand them, and because you've been through it too. Not just say, hey, I feel for you. You can say, I feel for you. I've been there. I get it. But instead of giving in to this emotions, and you could with the Ace of Wands, and we'll get into that in a second, we've got the Five of Cups. Yes, you can feel sadness and despair at times in your life, but you also know how to overcome it and see the bigger picture and start moving on from it so it doesn't hold you back and then allow you to experience all this positivity in your life. Again, we have that balance. See how it starts to become more and more nuanced, and the idea of balance has so much more of a deeper meaning with you, which is really beautiful. With the Ace of Wands over here, like I said, this could easily fuel your emotions. This shows us you're a very passionate person, but we're talking about passion in a really kind of youthful way. When you get excited about something, you get pumped, you get inspired, you tell everyone about it, they get excited too, and a lot of people can get caught up in your emotions. And trust me, you've got a ton of them, and like I said, people have experienced seeing you at your worst and they've seen you at your best. Not that you take it out on other people, I just want to point out. But again, it's a very charming quality people really love about you. You're very human is the best way to put it. And you show people, this is a great way to see it. Imagine being your own redemption arc. Does that make sense? When people like to see people go down and then they build them back up kind of thing. It's like you're your own version of them. People love to be on the journey with you. You inspire them that even they could get out of whatever, hopeless situation they're mentally in, if they can see that you've been there too. It's really beautiful. And then when you're up there, people feel like they can support you and all this positive feelings you're able to put out and connect with and attract with easily, because they're like, well, it's not like they're unaware of what else is out there in the world. You know what I'm saying? So anyways, you're a very passionate person, like we said, very energetic, very inspirational, you get pumped. But if you brought that energy into what we were talking about over here in the Moon, this could get out of hand real fast, real quickly, but it doesn't. It doesn't at all. We got the Two of Wands over here. This is like you stopping yourself. Again, pretend the swords is like oxygen, and then over here with wands we have fire. If these two got together, it would be bad. It would be throwing fire on oxygen. It would get out of hand quickly, and yet it doesn't. We have the same spirit fighting back. Again, we talk about this balance. This is you talking to yourself saying, wait a minute, let's think about the bigger picture. Let's plan this out. Let's figure this out. How can we work through this? How can we get what we want still? How can we not let this hold us down? There's this feeling of always moving forward, but not in a transient way. It's like a never give up kind of way. There's this huge array of experiences you've had. I think you've experienced more lows at this point in your life, but I do want to let you know, especially with the Two of Cups being here and the Nine of Cups, you have an extremely bright future ahead of you. People, I know we're going off a little bit on a sideline because we talked about what makes you shine, but I just want to tell you, I can see you've experienced a lot. It's getting better. It's getting better. One of the key things that's going to help getting you better is not only you keeping up this fight and keeping up this beautiful perspective where you appreciate both of these sides of yourself, and a lot of other people appreciate about you. It gives you empathy and people are able to relate to you, and you're able to understand something in its entirety in a way other people are. Because imagine there's a wheel of colors, right? And some people have yellow, some people have red. You've got the whole rainbow. So you understand everyone's perspective, the best way to handle it. We keep talking about a bigger picture with planning with the Two of Wands. But the key for you to keep up this shine, and then, as much as it's great that you've experienced both ends, I'm sure you'd like more of the positive stuff. With the Ace of Swords, this is when you are thinking a little more with your head than your heart. It doesn't mean you can't allow your heart to rule you. You're definitely someone who's ruled by their heart, and nothing's wrong with that. But when you start to focus, this is like intense mental clarity. This is when you're like one step ahead. You kind of almost want to be one step ahead of your emotions, if that makes sense. Like before you can even react, you want to say, let's be logical about this. What's going on? You want to kind of get ahead of the doubts is the best way to put it. You almost kind of want to jump ahead of yourself and say, before these emotions can sneak in, before any doubts can sneak in, it's not just about feeling better. It's about saying, pretend they don't exist. Okay, I'm going to make anything happen. What if anything could just happen? Let's go, let's go, let's go. And it becomes a fuel and a fire. Allow your emotions to connect to people and allow that to be the shining quality that people see in you and love about you, but definitely allow your mind to give you, and that sort of logical, emotionless judgment get you to have everything you want. Nine of Cups is, I cannot say this enough, Nine of Cups is our beautiful wish card. It's everything. It basically says you get everything you want, and there's no catch. It's the ultimate, like with the genie, it's the wish card, like I said. And trust me, this shows me that you are capable of creating the life that you want, especially because now that you've been through everything, you know what you want. You're mature, but you're also not afraid to experience, really dive into your emotions. I'm getting a bit repetitive, but what I'm trying to say is you got a lot of great things going on here, and I think it's very complex. And if I could sit down and write a book about you, it would be a thick one. And everyone would say it was genius. Not that I wrote it, but that you lived it. I'm telling you, I wish I could organize my thoughts that much better and expand upon this even more, but I think you know what I'm saying. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out like you would not believe. Either way, have a beautiful day. I will see you in the next one, and let's get ready for group number 3. Group number 3, let's find out what makes you shine by looking at the cards. Your tarot cards are 5 of Pentacles, 6 of Swords, Page of Wands, 10 of Cups, 9 of Cups. Do you see that? There's a journey here. Interesting. 3 of Wands, Page of Pentacles, and your last card is Queen of Wands. Interesting. Look at that ambition. Okay, I'll be honest with you. I'm definitely connecting to, how do I put this? So you know how when we talk about past lives and reincarnation and stuff like that, we talk about like your journey, your life's purpose. What were you meant to learn in this lifetime, past lifetime? Well, we're talking about this lifetime, and I'm definitely connecting to your life's purpose. Yes. Is it the reason why you shine? Of course. But it is also your entire, what you're going to do in this lifetime, your goal. And the cool thing is, not all the time when we're going through past lives, or in this case, your current lifetime, is it about learning some lesson. Sometimes it's about encompassing an idea, and so you have a pretty powerful one, and one that I would say is only positive, and overall going to make you very happy in the long run and very proud of the life you lived. And I'm very excited for you. You're going to start to notice that I will talk about a menage of different characteristics. However, you'll start to notice that they kind of line up and there's a lot of similarities. They kind of all complement each other. So I don't know if I have one defining word to describe you, but you'll start to feel, I guess you could say, ambition, power, dedication. And I would say the biggest way I would describe you is the ability to have blind hope, even in the darkest of times. So I can tell over here in the Five of Pentacles, the Three of Wands, the Page of Pentacles, and a little bit of the Six of Swords, that you did not start this lifetime you didn't have advantages other people had, you know? Especially when I see the Five of Pentacles. See, the Five of Pentacles shows up when somebody has a lacking mindset, you know, often around finances. But remember, when we get the Five of Pentacles, this is somebody who has good reason. They have been given quote-unquote proof in life in order to have this mindset. You know, they're not being negative. You're not being negative. You have every reason to just get up, sit down in the snow, and think the worst, and think the storm will never be over, but not you. You'll start to notice, like we talked about, this journey, this progression. This is going to happen to you repeatedly, but I'll tell you, in the long term, this kind of obstacles you've been through, think of the past. Sincerely, you have a super bright future ahead of you, and I'm very excited for two main reasons, both romantic and job-oriented. So like I said, this is the lacking mindset, starting from a rough beginning, especially with money and, just pure opportunities, things like that. But then over here, we have the Six of Swords. This talks about persevering through those difficult times and knowing you're going to reach a more positive end, even if you cannot see it. This is when the waters are rough and they're shaky and it's hard to push through. I mean, think about if you went and sailed a boat in the middle of the ocean and there's not a guarantee, considering how big the ocean is, if you turned in the wrong direction and you ran out of food before you reached any sort of land, you might not make it, but not you. There's just something in your heart that knows, despite what is around you and the proof that says otherwise, you hold on to this thought that carries you over into a newer, brighter reality. I do want to point out, it is one of your abilities in manifestation. Blind hope, blind confidence, no matter what people say, no matter what you go through, keep that in mind. That is the thing that's driving you forward, but it's also the thing that's attracting a lot of goodness into your life. But then we have the Page of Wands. Now, the Page of Wands interacting with the Ten of Cups not only talks about your passion and dedication when we talk about work and doing things like, as a career, but it also talks about what you're like as a romantic partner and what people like about being with you. This can work for friendships too, but we're specifically talking about romantic partners. So the Page of Wands shows that you push through all of these obstacles and whatever life throws at you, no matter what. Like we talked about, dedication, hope, resilience, ambition. But when you get to the Page of Wands, somehow life has not squished out your passion and your light. When you find something that you're interested in, you have a focus, tunnel vision, and a sense of youthful inspiration like no other. You jump into it going, I don't know if I can really do this or I necessarily have the skills at the moment, but who cares? I'm going to find a way to make it happen. Seriously, this is somebody who is the type of mentality that would become a multimillionaire, because They did not wait until someone could show them how they did it. They didn't wait for someone to approve of it. They just did it nonetheless. That is how you find your romantic partners. That is how you go about achieving things. And it's not only your fuel, your purpose, but it's something that I can't tell you how much your just general being inspires others, if that makes sense. Anyways, we talk about passion, dedication, starting things. You're not afraid to jump into things no matter your experience or permission of others. But then we have the 10 of Cups. 10 of Cups is so sweet. Yes, this does talk about your loving, nurturing nature when it comes to any sort of you like to build a little family unit for yourself, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And that can be defined by everything. Not everybody has to, go on and have kids one day. You could focus on, things people love to have animals as pets. You know what I mean? But you do like to build a sort of mini personal community is the best way I like to put it. You like to share everything that you've learned. It's like they've always been here in the future, and you know they have, and you've always been working really hard to get to them, if that makes sense. But you're somebody who, once you say, hey, I'm into you, do you want to move forward? Do you feel this way about me too? That's it. They've got you for life. You're going to give your all to them. And it is a wonderful characteristic of a partner. I do say so myself. But this also pops up often when I'm connecting to people who love to show their affection and they love to cuddle and they're just really sweet and feel totally comfortable living a happy life. I know that seems like a weird thing to say makes you shine, but you'd be surprised how many people self-sabotage themselves. Not you. You really like to be happy. You want to make others happy. You want your lifetime to be happy. And that is not a bad thing. Now, this is what I was talking about when I say this ambition and this feeling of everything's just really blowing up for you. It's going to keep getting better and better and better because of this. Everything we talk about this ambition. We say wanting something even if you know you don't have the skills or the proof. The Page of Cups, if we're talking about old school medieval rankings, has no business going to the queen and going, I got a penny. Let me be the person, fund this journey I want to go on. She's like, who are you? And yet, he doesn't care. He goes up to her with confidence, excitement, and says, listen, this is what I would like to have out of my future. This is the intention I have for both of us. This is how you could benefit. Let me show you. Let me give you a little proof. Yes, it might not be a lot of, it's just a penny. It's not thousands of dollars for you to really put your trust into me, and yet I'm still asking you. We talked about that ambition, that power. But also, there's a beauty for you. You don't keep your mindset in the future, I want to compliment. You're not always living in the future, but your ability to always be striving for more in the future is the thing that prevents you from being bogged down or letting others hold you down. It's kind of the magnet that pulls you towards greatness is the best way I can put it. Over here, the Three of Wands. This is somebody who's approaching somebody else. And if the Nine of Cups is our kind of get everything you possibly want with no catch, just get exactly what you want, too good to be true kind of wish card over here, then Three of Wands pops up to the Nine of Cups and says, I want that. Can I have that? And again, same concept, Three of Wands. Just a random person, doesn't have much, on an island, asking someone they barely know for everything, and yet no fear, no doubt. There's a directness to you. There's an ambition to you. I am constantly seeing omens of really positive, great romantic partner situation. This is divine bliss. I see you being powerful, respected, really strong likability factor, I see you achieving all of your dreams and desires in this lifetime. So yeah, get excited. The same thing that you're shining and people like about you is kind of just ultimately benefiting you in the long run. And who doesn't love that? I do want to point out, and this does not matter what your zodiac sign is, Spirit keeps telling me about your fire. You have lots of passion, but it's something that is going to be the thing that keeps getting you what you want. You have a very strong likability factor. You have a sort of energy about you that draws people to you, draws people to what you want to do. So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to be yourself. It's kind of like by default, you always win. As long as you have that drive, as long as you keep pushing forward, you're going to get it. So really cool. I'm excited for you. Anyways, if you enjoyed this reading, please feel free to give this video a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out like you would not believe. Either way, have a beautiful day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And now let's get ready for group number four. Let's find out what makes you shine by looking at the cards. First, let's look at your tarot cards. We have Two of Pentacles, Page of Pentacles, the Magician. Oh, I love the Magician. The Strength card, Nine of Swords, the Death card. Ooh, the Devil card and the Nine of Swords in between the Death card. And then right under Page of Pentacles. Interesting. Okay, and then your last card is King of Swords. Of course it's King of Swords when you have the Nine of Swords on the other side. I can tell you right now, you are somebody who is in their head a lot, and sometimes that can get to you and you can overwhelm yourself unintentionally. But it is only because you care. You're almost too smart for your own good, but it's because you care. There is a strong, thoughtful quality to you that we're going to be getting to in a moment. So, let's first start off with the Two of Pentacles. The Two of Pentacles shows us that you're very skilled at handling a multitude of tasks at the same time. But one, this shows how smart you are. You're able to do all of this skillfully. Many people find it hard and they want to only focus on one thing at a time. They can't understand multiple things happening as a whole. But not only does that speak about your intelligence, especially with the King of Swords, oh my goodness, and a little bit with the Nine of Swords, you're very, very smart. Especially with the King of Swords, you're somebody who is smart and able to reply very quickly. You're able to have a decision right away, but not because you answer recklessly, but you're just that smart. You're able to kind of know the answer right away. You don't need to think about it deeper. It's a gut feeling. You already know. There's a bit of, this card doesn't get enough, most people wouldn't define this card as something that's intuitive, but I would definitely say that you need a certain level of intuitiveness in order to be this right all the time. But with the Two of Pentacles being here and the King of Swords, both of them talking about the idea of seeing the greater picture. It's like you have a bird's eye view and you're understanding everything as a whole. You understand in order for something to be accomplished well, not one thing needs to be done, well or accomplished. Most people have one job. There's 5 jobs that need to happen, and they all need to benefit and work together. And you're like, you know what? I'll take advantage. I'll take care of all of this. I'll make it all happen. I know how to make it work, and I understand how important it is for the benefit of them all working together. Again, why? So everyone can benefit from the project itself working out as a whole, if that makes sense. So this isn't just work stuff. This is definitely when you're trying to work a full-time job, but you're also still trying to do home errands and trying to take care of everything. I can definitely see, like I said, with the Nine of Swords being over here, that gets to you. It can overwhelm you. I think you're prone to feeling overwhelmed. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I know we're talking about what makes us shine. This is popping up here because Spirit wants you to know that's not a fault. It's more understandable. Don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it, but also don't be afraid to just take a moment. I do want to point out when I say take a moment, I can see here in the Magician card, the King of Swords card. Oh my goodness, this is bothering me. Stop. The Death card here as well. I would not describe you as an introvert by nature, like that's not some way you describe yourself, But you need alone time more than you realize, and you should consider doing it because it is a way of you rejuvenating your energy in order to get back out there and be with people. Like, definitely you are social and you are someone, and by the way, being an introvert is not a bad thing in the least, but some people would just be like full on like, yep, I don't want to hang out with people at all. You like to be out there more than you know. I think definitely people find you kind of an enigma in a really cool way. Again, another wonderful shining quality about you, because you have a tendency to be in your head, not out of like fantasizing about the future or things like that. It's more that we talked about with the King of Swords, you being so smart and you thinking at such a lightning speed, you don't have time to let anyone in on your thought process. So you're just kind of going is the best way I can put it. And because you're moving so fast, by the time you open your mouth, a lot of people don't anticipate how far ahead you've thought, how well you've planned out things, that maybe what seems like you just relaxing is you helping everybody else out. It's like you're a quiet leader. I definitely would not describe you as such, but you're kind of almost like a shadow king is the best way to put it. But if there's a nicer way to put a shadow king, you know how people use that term as like as a negative thing when someone wants to be the king and they're doing a bunch of stuff in the background scene to sabotage and control. That's not you. This is a positive thing. It's like you're in the shadows, you're doing a bunch of stuff that benefits everybody, and you feel it's more beneficial if you are in the background of doing it because you don't really necessarily need the attention. There's a lot of humble qualities to you in this, but you definitely, there's no there's no ulterior motive in a bad way. So it's a good shadow king. What else? Speaking of shadows over here with the death card, this is really interesting too because it does talk about your creative nature when solving problems. If somebody says that can't happen, you're going to look through door number 2 and figure out a different way of going around it. You're going to use, the side streets to make whatever you want to happen. There's a sense of like, I'm going to make it happen. I don't care how I make it happen. I'll be creative about how I make it happen, but it's going to happen. Again, how people can depend on you and trust in you when we talk about the Two of Pentacles and the King of Swords, and we talk about the creative problem solving. Again, you're very, very smart, like next level smart. But what's so interesting, I was addressing over here with the Devil card and the Nine of Swords, is pretend the Nine of Swords is, your fears, anything you're going through, stressful emotions, overthinking. And then the Devil is when you're being treated badly by someone. It's not a good relationship. These are habits that are bringing you down. Whatever it is, you can see these are like not great things to experience. And yet, you just have no problem. There is a complete independence to you, another thing that makes you shine. With the Death card, there is such a lack of fear for you to just cut ties. And this isn't about, if you ever worry about saying, because sometimes people cut ties with people too quickly and too often, and they need to reevaluate that, not you. Your lack of fear and your ruthlessness to say, I don't want to deal with that anymore, I shouldn't have to deal with that. And you don't care if you have to start from nothing again, which isn't necessarily always the case. I'm just saying there's that complete lack of fear and okayness with it, making words up. There is just an intense bravery about you. I think the thing I keep finding most fascinating about you is whether you're unintentionally leading, you're unintentionally handling everything, you're unintentionally making really brave choices. This is such a in the background hidden vibe of yours. It's like people sense it and they're drawn to it. But I think the fact that it's done so humbly with no other goal other than to accomplish the task and just to benefit others, benefit yourself. You know what I mean? It's not solely based on making you look good or to become the leader or to get all the credit. It's not that vibe at all. There's something so without ego about you that I'm personally, I try not to insert myself in this way in these type of readings, but I absolutely hate ego. I think there's nothing wrong with vanity, there's nothing wrong with liking yourself, but ego can be a problem, and it's just like one of my biggest turnoffs. And I just love how humble you are. It just comes through in so many creative ways and so powerfully while you're still accomplishing so many things. I'm just admiring you for a moment. With the Page of Pentacles, Again, this shows your mentality of thinking of the future, but not afraid to let people know, saying, listen, I'm in my head right now, I'm thinking about my own thing, but I want to let you know. It's like when somebody gives like a token to say, I'm letting you know I'm thinking about the future. I'm letting you know that's a goal of mine. You're not somebody who definitely focuses only on the future. I think you can focus on the future too much and get in your head at times when you're trying to organize stuff, but it's more of you're not afraid to dedicate yourself to a cause, to a person, but you definitely are practical. And people enjoy that about you. They enjoy that you like to surround yourself and exhibit a lot of feelings and affection through proof. You like to give. These are gifts, little tokens. They are physical manifestations to show, yes, I plan to keep doing this in the long run, whatever that may be. Like we talked about, career, relationship, whatever. Now, speaking of relationships, I do want to point out, yes, the Strength card does talk about your strength, especially your strength to push through when things are difficult. But it also talks about your natural abilities to understand your partner's body, if that makes sense. Yes, you are a wonderful partner in that way, and that is something you should be very prideful of. It's kind of interesting because there's so much analytical, logical nature to the way you go about things, but this is where you kind of let loose. It's like there's a certain level of logic when you make certain decisions in this, avenue in your life, but mostly this is kind of when you let go. I think this is probably a very big stress reliever for you, which is really beautiful. But last but not least, we have the Magician card. This does not surprise me when I see everything else. When you have this level of getting things done, power, intelligence, and yet humbleness, totally makes sense. The Magician card pops up. This is when somebody has everything they need, needs no more, no less. And this is the yes card for everything. This is the yes card that, yes, you'll get that job. Yes, you can manifest what you want. It is very multifaceted. It's extremely powerful. And it's something that we all are secretly striving to as we find balance in our life. And you have that very naturally. I think you should be more aware of it. Maybe not too aware of it, or you might overthink it. But use it to your advantage. What I mean by that is start considering doing manifestations, affirmations. Just ask. Just reach out into the void. You have the right amount of energy to accomplish what you want to do in a much easier way than other people. Other people might have to work really hard to manifest. They have to get in the right headspace, not you. Do you ever find synchronicities follow you? And if you don't know what that is, I can totally make a video about it. But do you ever notice when you kind of set your mind to things, they just seem to work out in sometimes impossible ways? I know that might be hard to understand because you're such a logical person, but there's something, it's so interesting. Usually I get Magician cards when I connect to people who are very emotional, but there's something so unique about your magic, and I love that. Anyways, this is just me complimenting you for 12 minutes, and I'm all about it. I hope you are too. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out like you would not believe. Either way, have a lovely day. I will see you in the next one. And let's get ready for group number 5. Group number 5. Let's find out what makes you shine by looking at the cards. Your tarot cards are 5 of Swords, 6 of Pentacles, 3 of Wands, 4 of Pentacles, Queen of Cups, 10 of Pentacles. Oh, I love the Magician. And your last card is the Fool. That's so fascinating. See, the thing is, I'm picking up like a very strong, powerful energy. Really generous, really driven. Seems kind of almost like they're not afraid of everything. And yet, you seem like you keep away a very sensitive side of yourself from people. And I just think that's so interesting because unbeknownst to you, a lot of the things you keep away from other people are the very thing that is needed to the recipe for you to continue to bloom as successfully as you can in the Magician card. And we'll get into that in more detail, obviously, as we go through the cards. So, keep in mind, I have to elaborate a lot. So, we're gonna be going into all the details of how this is all coming together, and it's all important. So, I can tell you right off the bat with 6 of Pentacles here and 10 of Pentacles here, you are somebody who's incredibly generous. Above and beyond. It's a really beautiful trait. When I come across this type of person, I just want to say thank you. You help the world, both individual humans you come in contact with, and that type of nature often educates others. And so it's just a wonderful trait to have. So thank you for being such a generous person. But you are not someone to be, messed with or taken advantage of just because you're generous. No, not at all. We can see this exhibited in these 5 cards especially. So even though the 6 of Pentacles does talk about somebody who is incredibly generous, they are able to simultaneously be generous through both. They're able to understand the limits of when they need to give and when they need to hold back from themselves. There's a maturity and an okayness to saying no when they need to say no. Their default is to give, and they prefer to give, but they're not going to give away their house and home, if that makes sense. So again, if people think they're going to, try you, they need to think again, especially when we see the 10 of Pentacles. Yes, this is somebody is very generous, but you know why they're generous? Because they made the right moves for a certain amount of time, again, understood when to say no to people in order to accumulate such wealth in order to then get to that stage in their life where they can be really generous. Both of these do point out you are much better at accumulating money. No, I think you definitely know it. I think you definitely know that you're pretty good at of earning that coin, and good for you. That's definitely a strong trait about you. People tend to be, in this lifetime, people find money very important. So it's something, if you're able to master bringing it to you, understanding how to make it, this is somebody who's able to be really smart business oriented. They're really smart financially of knowing when to give and when to save, investments, things like that, long-term ideas as well, especially when we have the 10 of Pentacles. It's definitely a skill that people enjoy and want to benefit from, like they want to know you and be like, oh, how can I do that too? Tell me. I think that's such a cool skill to have. And again, when we talk about people not wanting to mess with you, we have the 5 of Swords. You are not afraid to stand up for yourself. You're not afraid to say when someone is being mean to someone else, and you are definitely competitive. I think there's a joy to your competitive nature, but not competitive nature in order to hurt others. I want to be clear. In fact, it almost feels like you hide a little bit of this competitive nature. Like people know that when you're interested in something, you like to win, but they don't know how much it means to you. You don't want to come across in a mean way. Some people can confuse competition as like a bad thing, and you definitely want to keep that to yourself because you like being a generous, thoughtful person. You know what I mean? Again, 3 of Wands talks about, both 5 of Swords and 3 of Wands talks about your total confidence when it comes to going up to others, letting them know how you think and feel. You're not afraid to reach out. That's what's got you so far in life, this sort of comfortability with taking that next step forward. When people have ambition, but a lot of moves to be made in life in order, for people to do well in life in the long term, you have to be okay with reaching out and, many people are uncomfortable ordering a pizza on the phone. Totally understandable. We've all been there. Not you. You were totally comfortable and confident in that way. I also see in the Magician card, a lot of people underestimate what a mastermind you are. And not in a manipulative way, not in like a bad way, and people don't think that you're silly or dumb or anything like that. It's just they're not fully aware of how much is going on behind the scenes for you to look a certain way, Like it's so easy for people to just be like, oh, you're so generous. It's like, yeah, but how were they able to accumulate all that money in order to be generous? Does that make sense? You don't talk about it. You keep it to yourself. You prefer to keep it to yourself. You prefer to keep a bunch of things to yourself, like we talked about. But it's there. Now let's get into these cards. They're important. So I can see over here in the Four of Pentacles, you like to keep a lot of your emotions and thought process to yourself, like we talked about with the whole masterminding concept with the Magician. And people can sense, people really enjoy getting to know these other sides of you when you let them in. They love to know that in the Fool card, you're more free-spirited than you may initially come across. People love knowing with the Queen of Cups, you have a deep emotional depth, and you love to be emotional and affectionate with the right person. But the thing is, there's an ironclad gate that you hold up, and they've got to pass the test before you let them in. You have no problem approaching them, letting them know, going, hey, I like you, you're cool, whatever. But when they start to dig deep, they're like, there's something you're not letting me in on. I'm hanging out with you long enough. We haven't talked about X, Y, and Z yet. What's going on? And you're like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. That's what's so special, though, about it. Because when people do get to see that, when you do let them in, they start to have a greater appreciation for, again, the masterminding, everything you did behind the scenes in order to accomplish this. They start to feel for you that you might not always feel like you can truly be yourself and put both out your emotional side and maybe your little more ruthless competitive side. They can see that you're afraid of being judged. There's a vulnerability to you. You have both the complexities of somebody who's confident, can get things done, really skilled, all that amazing stuff. And yet there is a sweetness and, like we talked about, free-spirited, emotional side of you keep buried down deep. I do want to point out that it is important for you to know that you think that when you are like this, you can only be this way with someone really special who you feel you can trust. Because otherwise it will feel like you're jumping off a cliff, just like this person is in this picture. But the thing is, you have the Magician card. There's almost this weird... This is so interesting. So the Magician card, the way it's popping up, is the type of card that's super special. This is like above level manifestation. This is when you have everything you need right now, no more, no less. It is the type of card where if you reach out for it, you can make things happen in unexplainable ways. They just seem to work out in your favor because of what you've accumulated, like energy-wise as a person. You're like in the right mental state and everything like that. And the thing is, this balance between this more like kind of practical, harder, more intense side of you, I wouldn't describe it as harder, but I'm trying to come up with words here, and this more like ooey gooey, emotional, silly side of you is that combination of ingredients, which is what is equaling the Magician. So don't be afraid of this more silly side of yourself. It's making everything in your life possible, including connections with people, all your success, everything, your confidence. But weirdly, your Magician pops up because you're not necessarily open all the time, if that makes sense. Like, yes, you are being advised that you shouldn't be so frightened of being yourself. You should let this out more. It's a good thing. It's what's going to draw even more people to you, especially the people who have known you. If you start to be more emotional, they're going to be like, whoa, I didn't even know this was here. That's so cool. And you let even more people in. It's like the effect we talked about when you let the right people in, you feel really close with them. It's like that by tenfold because you let a bunch of people who've known you over time in at the same time. They're like, oh, wow, this is so special. But weirdly enough, the way your magic is happening is by this selective trait. So this isn't necessarily bad to have, to keep being like, okay, I'll come across as someone who's really generous and skilled and confident and secretly getting things done and no one knows. But that sort of filter that you have on yourself, when you have those small moments of connection with people in that really deep, prolific way where by them understanding you have this other side to yourself and how it equals up how it equals to the whole of everything else, if that makes sense, is the moments you shine best. You do best when you receive this sort of connection. Because when people connect to you in this way, you connect to yourself in this way. These are your little doses of magic that last a lot longer. It's kind of like if you were given gas for your tank, but you have a Prius, you don't need a lot and very often in order for you to shine. So it's very cool. You're very much more than meets the eye. It's so sweet how vulnerable you are, and yet you make such strong moves. There's something really special here. I'm telling you right now, the person who's lucky enough to get to see both sides of you, they're getting to really appreciate what makes you shine. Because you are not someone who can be defined as much as you accidentally allow other people to see you as one thing. You are much deeper than that, and I love that. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please consider giving it a like, comment, and subscribe. It helps out the channel like you would not believe. Either way, have a lovely day. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And yeah, bye!